tutte le posizioni alla fine sono stati tre piloti giapponesi a salire sul podio del Giro della velocità. Vediamo che cosa succederà oggi a partire proprio dalle qualifiche. Mancano infatti da questo momento 4, 3, 2, 1 e non
Buongiorno everybody, and welcome to a rather overcast and slightly misty morning once again for the final qualifying session of 2019 for the Euroformula Open Championship here at the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. Track and air temperature are both 12 degrees, and while it is 95% humidity, there isn't any sign of rain at all in the air. Scott Woodward and Elliot Woods talk you through the final 25 minutes of qualifying for 2019. It has been an enthralling season from start to almost finish. We've got one more race this afternoon to round off the 2019 season. And Elliot, whilst the overall championship has been settled, Marino Sato is the new champion. There's still the matter of a rookie title to settle. 3 points now between Liam Lawson and Linus Lundqvist. That's, I think, arguably, Lawson's one under pressure after losing points due to retiring yesterday. So really, Lundqvist will be the one pushing today. He's got nothing to lose, whereas Liam Lawson's got a 3-point gap that he has to maintain, and he has to start doing that now in qualifying.
Yeah, it's both of them are in their first seasons in Europe, which is why they're the rookie contenders this year. And both of them had kind of messy races yesterday. Linus Lundqvist obviously started from pole, but then had a poor start and slipped down the order. And Lawson, after a very ambitious attempt at an overtake around the outside of Ascari, ended up getting hit out the race by Rui Andrade. He has a lot to win here, but also a lot to lose, because obviously he has Red Bull backing. So Dr. Helmut Marko, now the Japanese Grand Prix is finished, he'll be watching the performances of his protégés today very closely. While Linus Lundqvist, who came from British F4 and British F3, he's also got a lot to win because he has no F1 support, and winning an international title would definitely put him on the map.
Certainly will. Speaking of wins, it was a win yesterday for Marino Sato. In fact, it was a Japanese 1-2-3, which only got decided on the run to Milan because it was Marino Sato battling in the last few laps with Tepin Notori, who took his first victory in the championship last time out at Barcelona, whilst Yuki Tsunoda only just snatched the final podium spot for Nikolai Kiergaard on the run to Milan. So I think for any Japanese fans who are watching for their young talents coming through, that will certainly give them a reason to celebrate or to wake up early this morning to watch them, because it was certainly an incredible lockout for all three of most of the drivers that we've had from Japan that have come through the championship this year.
Yeah, and it wasn't just drivers from Japan who benefited yesterday, as the Motorpark team, which won the race from Marino Sato, they have a kind of engineer swapping program with its Japanese outfit, BMAX Racing. And the representative who went on the podium with the three drivers was one of their Japanese guys. So they're all very proud to be up there, and especially as there was no action at Suzuka yesterday.
Yeah, because of Typhoon Hagabis. So obviously we hope that everyone over in Japan is all okay. I know we've had the Japanese Grand Prix this morning, which we won't spoil for you, but that did run, I'm glad to tell you, without any problems, and it was in fairly clear conditions from what I understand. And hopefully all the Rugby World Cup stuff will go along today, unless the pitches have any flooding problems, but hopefully they won't do. But moving forward back to Monza, first a couple of cars out there to set their times. There is number 40, Yuki Tsunoda, the man that picked up third place yesterday, another driver with Red Bull backing. Meanwhile, we just spotted outside the commentary box that I think we thought for a second that Linus Lundqvist had stopped with a problem, but it was simply just a practice start out of the pits.
Yeah, he was testing the grip levels, I imagine, on the exit of the pit lane. You normally see that happen on the pit straight as well. They'll get as slow as possible, lay down extra rubber, so when they're starting in that position the next day, they can get a lot faster off the line. Linus Lundqvist took pole here yesterday. He got a very strong toe, but the two double R cars, which normally run minimal wing in Euroformula Open, regardless of the circuit, have done very well, and his teammate Jack Doohan has also looked one of the fastest, I'd say. So those two are definitely ones to watch out for in this session.
And speaking of ones to watch out for in this session, alongside the likes of Jack Doohan and Linus Lundqvist, here is our new champion, Marino Sato, who picked up the title in a very wet first race at Barcelona. And certainly was able to show off his proper racecraft and overtaking prowess yesterday, which hadn't seen arguably too much, because I think we were talking with Cal yesterday in the commentary, and we were saying that he usually tends to win his races mostly from the front in terms of takes pole position, has the pace and goes forward, whereas arguably in Barcelona he didn't really have to race too much, he just had to score the points to get the title done. But in the second race he kind of had to try and battle a little bit and sort of struggle. But here at Monza, bit of a different story. He's just gone faster with his first proper flying lap by almost 0.6 of a second. There's still 20 minutes to go in the session, but Sato yesterday showed something we hadn't seen too much in this year, which is a little bit of racecraft from Marino, and it seemed to work out pretty well.
Yeah, not just racecraft, but risk. He's an incredibly risk-averse driver when it comes to racing, and we saw that earlier in the season where even when he conceded the lead, he waited for other guys to make mistakes and then overtake them. Spa being a great example of that. And at Barcelona, it was obviously so wet, he couldn't actually really see what lap was on and what position he was in, so he didn't want to risk losing anything. Yesterday, he said he kind of dropped that character trait and went all out for it. But even then, he was waiting for other drivers to make mistakes at the same time. And he was so excited by his last lap move for the win that his race suit was wet as he crossed the finish line. He wouldn't care to explain it, but I think I can imagine what happened.
I think it's fair to say that it might not have been his drinks bottle, and it might not have been champagne. I don't think, but we'll let anyone else who wants to try and imagine what it might have been, we'll let you be the judge of that. So, amongst the field this weekend, we didn't talk about it too much yesterday. We've got, of course, 3 new drivers for this weekend. I think we've got Carl Kirkwood from America, we've got Lorenzo Ferrari and Philippe Cominiars as well. Philippe Cominiars, actually, at the moment, for the first few times, is actually the fastest of all 3, with a 149.945. So Philippe Cominiars, from some of the research I've done, has done mainly sort of a Spanish from Formula 4 in Italy, I think, and in Spain. Carl Kirkwood, of course, has won just about almost everything there is to really win in the sort of road to Indy ladder and single seaters. He's won pretty much, if I can get my screenshot I just took.
And talking of Philippe Cominiars, he and drive at school teammate Rui Andrade have just gone first and second, although they've just been beaten by Yuki Tsunoda by over a second in Motorpark, so the times are definitely dropping now.
Absolutely. So as we look at that, Yuki Tsunoda goes to the top, Jack Doohan goes up, also does Ida Cohen, who David Billy Munger pops up to second quickest. So once again, everyone starts using the first the first proper flying lap to set a banker lap time, and then everyone starts to build up from there. So Tsunoda's gone quickest now from Billy Munger in second place. There's Jack Doohan, just following in the wheel tracks of one of the RP Motorsport cars. Good to see RP Motorsport in the championship this weekend. And there he's following behind Carl Kirkwood, who I was about to say, as pretty much ever since he jumped into British F4 United States, he's pretty much won just about almost everything there is to win. In 2017, he was the F4 United States champion. In 2018, he was both the F3 Americas champion and the US F2000 national champion. This year, he was the Indy Pro 2000 champion. So, in many cases, he's really got a bit of a crossroads in his career here in many cases. But does he continue going up the ladder in the Indy category, or does he, as he's doing this weekend, test the waters in Europe, see how he gets on, and possibly go towards a career potentially, maybe not necessarily Formula 1, but somewhere in a higher stakes champion, maybe like World Endurance or somewhere that might possibly serve him well, before he can potentially think about going back to America if he chooses to do so, possibly look at a career in IndyCar. It's an interesting crossroads in his career, given the fact he's here in Europe trying out how he goes in a Formula 3 car here, but he's won almost everything there is to win in the junior categories, bar Indy Lights in America.
Yeah, he's certainly one driver who's looking more towards Formula 1 than IndyCar, despite being on the road to Indy ladder. And by winning the Indy Pro 2000 Championship this year, he gets a scholarship to drive in Indy Lights for next year. But there is quite a difficulty with Indy Lights. If you don't win the title, it's actually very hard to get into IndyCar. As we've seen Marino Sato cross the line and go back into first place. So there is an option for Carl Kirkwood to remain in Europe, either with RP Motorsport in Euroformula next year with the new Dallara 320 chassis, or to look for options elsewhere. And he said that if he does kind of win the Indy Lights title and then has a great deal in Europe, because the European teams are now seeing how good he is, he can kind of use that as a negotiation with the IndyCar teams and kind of increase his craft there. But the Formula 3 cars in America are very different to the Formula 3 cars here. They're a lot heavier, they're a lot slower in corners, and they also race on circuits which are incredibly low grip compared to the likes of Monza. Even though this is a low downforce circuit, this is a very grippy type of asphalt compared to what we normally see in America. Yeah,
and most of the circuits they tend to drive on, it's kind of half road course, but also at the same time the other half tends to be sort of temporary street circuits where you're on streets where arguably they're not built for racing in many cases, so usually most street circuits don't offer that much grip. So in terms of trying to cope with not that much grip, in terms of he might have been more experienced in that in terms of being able to control a less grippy car in many cases. But really this weekend is a bit more of an audition for him in terms of seeing how he gets on compared to other European and overseas talent racing in Europe here. And if it goes well, which it seems to be for a first weekend, seems to be going okay performance-wise, he might possibly be thinking about, as you said, a move into 2020, possibly here in Europe, if not back to the US.
Yeah, from the outside, it does look impressive. When I spoke to him, he was not impressed at all with how he's performed this weekend. He was expecting a little bit more from himself, but he was also being very risk-averse. But talking of low-grip surfaces, Euroformula announced its 2020 calendar on Friday. And as well as the Po Grand Prix, which is a brilliant race on a brilliant street circuit, we're also adding the Gran Premio del Mediterraneo at Ennapegusa in Sicily, which is a island. It's a large island off the end of Italy, and that is a circuit that kind of lost its FIA status, and they've renovated it, and it's come back into use, but it's still used irregularly. So that's going to be a very low grip track. And it's also kind of a high speed track with just a few chicanes to kind of make things a little safer. And it's going to be brilliant to see Euroformula go back there next year, but not with this car.
Yeah, because we've got the brand new F320 car, which is going to carry even more downforce, so it means that it'll be quite a fast circuit. And Ed Pegusa, for those who have longer memories in many cases, of course, back then, I think even as recent as kind of the mid-2000s, we've seen sort of FIA GT racing there in terms of single seats. We've seen Formula 3. I remember the days when the International Formula 3000 Championship, which is now, of course, Formula 2 on the Grand Prix package, used to race there quite a bit in many cases. And it is one of those circuits where it doesn't look much, but it's deceptively fast, and it is a circuit where if you take liberties with it, it will seriously bite back given how quick it is. It's got some very tricky and very tight but fast chicanes, and if you just clip a curve wrong at any point in time, it can really spell disaster.
Yeah, to reel off a few of the winners there, you've got F1 champions like Kiki Rosberg, Sir Jackie Stewart, John Surtees. Then you've got new IMSA champion Juan Pablo Montoya, who's also obviously won a lot in IndyCar. Felipe Massa won there in 2003, I believe. Augusto Farfus, who's one of, I think, BMW's factory drivers still. Louis Perez Sala, who I spoke to yesterday, and he was very excited that the race was returning. Before it was closed down, the International Formula 3000 had different manufacturers as well. So they used ENA as kind of a development circuit because they can never test there apart from on race weekend. And it'd be very important to get all these different manufacturers to converge into kind of a set-up direction that would be as quick as possible, because they had very different aerodynamic tendencies depending on which team you drove for.
Well, either one, I'm certainly looking forward to seeing it come back. It is a circuit where I've only driven it virtually, but it's certainly been obviously quite a fast circuit, so you expect some very quick lap times, particularly with these new car coming for next year. So lots of exciting plans coming in. Of course, if you want to check out the news story, I believe it's both on the International Euroformula Open Championship website and also on formulascout.com as well.
And hopefully either today or tomorrow we're going to be publishing a feature about the history of the Grand Prix and the history of the circuit, with interviews with Gianpaolo Dallara, the founder of the Dallara brand that produced this car, Louis Perez Sala, who won the race, and potentially another former winner, but I won't spoil that.
A bit of a surprise, so maybe tune into formulascout.com for that one then, which should be good. Back to the qualifying session, 30 minutes to go. We had a bit of a lull in proceedings, so we had a chance to talk about a few things for next year. So there's a couple of cars going back out there. We just saw a graphic, of course, on the screen confirming that Marino Stato is the 2019 Euroformula Open champion. Currently has pole, but not by very much, because you can see the top six on the top left of the screen. Almost everyone's in the pit lane, but the top six are very, very close. We know it's competitive in this championship, and we know it can be very close at Monza, but you put the two together, and you've got the top six separated by just under 0.4 of a second, with the top three separated by less than a tenth. So that's going to be very tight with still half the session to go.
Massively tight. And as we saw earlier, when I believe it was Billy Munger who went to the top, we had a train of 10 cars, and he was the last car in that train. Marino Sato was at the front at the time, and Carl Kirkwood as well. You see Kirkwood's down the order, so you really want to time it right here, that you're at the back of a train, so you get not only one slipstream, but essentially a quadruple slipstream, or a 10 times slipstream of all the cars in front of you.
And then you said to me yesterday, that's exactly what Billy Munger did with 4 or 5 cars ahead of him, which got him the fastest time combined in practice yesterday. So certainly looking pretty quick. He currently sits 8th at the moment, and Billy is one of those drivers, what we've seen, at least I've seen it the last couple of seasons since I've joined, sort of looking after the helping with the commentary team on the GT Open weekends. He is one of those drivers where he can pull out a really spectacular lap exactly when he needs to, just as long as everything obviously comes together for it. But there are moments when everything just works together for him. A lap he can pull together is pretty spectacular.
Yeah, he does have a kind of last-minute surprise approach to his qualifying, and at Silverstone that helped in that he caused a red flag by going off and then came back on and he went even faster, which definitely helped him. But he's one who is actually very important to watch on lap 1, because he gets a brilliant start. Sometimes he gets bolted by drivers ahead, as we saw with Lucas Dunner yesterday as well. He was set to overtake about 3 or 4 cars until he got held up. So even if he qualifies further down the order, he can overtake people very quickly. And obviously at Monza, as we saw yesterday, a slipstream battle throughout the race. So if you're 5th on the last lap, you could still end up winning the race.
It's that hand clutch he uses, I'm telling you. It's that hand clutch that Billy uses. I'm pretty sure that's the trick. Most of the cars out on track now to set their final few lap times. We've got both of our, I was about to say both of our Japanese drivers. That's Liam Lawson just behind. Of course, crucial day for him. He's in contention for the rookie title. Currently at the moment 3rd fastest, qualifying ahead of Linus Lundqvist, who's currently 7th quickest, 1.3 seconds off pole. So quick to reel off the top 10 then. Sato on provisional pole by 27 1,000 of a second from actually a very good effort from Caleb Caleb Williams up there in second place. So he's been a driver where I think he's had 1 or 2 moments this season, but he's kind of found himself languishing more the mid-pack or the second half of the field in many cases. But good to see him in this qualifying session this morning. Some of the effort which it looks like Fortec had put in to find a bit more of a setup on that car seems to have worked initially.
Yeah, mid-season he lost his teammate Cameron Dass, who switched to Motorpark. But since then, Callum Williams and Fortec Motorsports have actually improved their results. I think he was immediately getting kind of high point scoring positions. Without a teammate, though, he can't formulate a strategy to kind of work together to get a toe in these scenarios.
No.
So he's got to try and find another driver and work with them without obviously making any kind of verbal communication while on track, which is very difficult. And that is why we do see the scenes like in yesterday in FIA Formula 3 where drivers are getting very, very slow to try and get that toe and get a little dangerous.
There is Caleb Williams making his way through. Nice little close-up of him at work through the Restifilia chicane.
Kaelin's brother, as well, I believe it is, has made a film about his time in Euroformula, which you can watch on YouTube for free. It's very good, very dramatic as well.
I think I might do that tonight, actually. I've got some time to kill before I fly back tomorrow, so it might actually keep me occupied. So, Marino Sato then continues on. Liam Lawson third quickest, Yuki Tsunoda fourth. So both the Red Bull juniors at the moment, provisionally on the second row of the grid. There is Liam Lawson. Jack Doohan up to fifth place, and also it's an impressive qualifying session this morning so far for the Antipodeans with Caleb Williams second, Liam Lawson third, and Jack Doohan fifth. So doing well so far.
We need to watch what these cars are doing in the pits right now, because just before Curva Barabolica, I did see a master post. I think he was waving a black flag rather than a blue flag. And as we saw yesterday, several drivers received stop-go penalties, which they served in qualifying rather than in the race, because of slowing down excessively. So it'll be interesting to see if the team's actually working on the cars there, or if they're going to stay still in pit lane. I don't think our commentary box will allow us to reach around that far, but it is potentially an offence that's caused.
There's a couple of drivers heading out already, and that is one of the most. I think Sato is heading out there, as well as I think possibly Jack Doohan. I think they're both being followed by Christian Hahn, who's only down in 17th place. He's about 3.7 seconds off pole, so he's got some work to do to try and pick that one up. Stop and go for car 21, which is Caleb Williams up in second place. I suspect that was possibly a black flag for him as well. Also, team manager and driver of car 7, which is Jack Doohan's been also asked to go to the stewards after qualifying. I don't know if it's possible for the same thing, if not maybe for possibly, it could be holding someone up, it could be excessive track limits, it could be anything, but obviously we won't know exactly until we get a bit of a release after the qualifying session is done.
Yeah, there's another reason it could be, which isn't usually delivered this early in the session, is that when drivers miss their braking points in turn 1, they take the escape road, which kind of gets them returns to the track. But later on in the session, some drivers do that because they know they can get around a little quicker without using that much tyre life, so they can have their flying lap and be like the very last on track at the time. So I doubt it would be a penalty for that. But if someone does that later on, it is something the stewards are watching and don't like to see.
Stewards are also watching Lucas Dunham, because not only is his 3 minutes 41 time going to be deleted, also this next lap also won't count either. So the lap he's actually winding up on to complete is not going to count either. So but he may well get communicated that by the time he comes back around. So Caleb Williams is in the pit lane now, and actually that's top 6 gap has stayed as it was. So really, the likes of Linus Lundqvist and Billy Munger and Nikolai Kiergaard and Rui Andrade up to 10th quickest as well. They really do need to start to get a move on here with 7 and a bit minutes to go to get themselves that little bit closer to the guys that in the sort of, to basically bridge that gulf of about a second or so between the top 6 and the rest of the field. There's 7 minutes on the clock, ticks over, so Dunham will go across to start a new time as the Teo Martin squad watches on. Of course, Teo Martin only running one car this weekend in the form of Lucas Dunham. So again, similar to Caleb Williams, he hasn't got a teammate or anyone else to kind of fall back on in terms of any data or even a tow in many cases. He has to go there and also not only work by himself to try and use the data he's got to make the car quicker, but at the same time, like with Usama and Caleb Williams, as we see a lock-up for Philippe Caminiars into the first chicane, he's got to work solo and trying to find a tow and try and find someone as a drafting partner to get himself a good time.
Talking of the lock-up, a brilliant thing about the Michelin tyres used in Euroformula Open is they give drivers a lot of feedback, which helps certainly for rookies like Caminiars, as this is his first race weekend. And next year with our new car, they're going to develop new tyres which have to work with the increased loads that are being put on them. And then a year after that, they're introducing a very special new tyre and a new wheel, which are going to be larger than before to kind of go with the direction Formula 1 is going.
Ah, excellent. Some more similar to something like the 18-inch wheels that we're going to have in Formula 1 in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to seeing that. Good stuff to see more and more steps being taken to make these cars sort of keep them in the direction of where Formula 1's going, to keep them similar so the drivers know roughly what to expect when they start moving up with just enhanced levels of grip and power in many cases. So Lucas Dunham then, and he's got an armada of cars in front of him, which I think are all going rather slowly, and so he'll have to back off that lap. And this is what we're talking about in terms of drivers who are kind of... It's similar to what we had yesterday, and also, dare we mention it, the Monza qualifying we had in Formula 1, where no one wants to go first and kind of be the one that gives the toe to everybody else. Everyone's kind of thinking it's almost a bit sort of polite in terms of after you go in terms of on the back straight. It kind of means everyone has to kind of pick and choose where they go. And unfortunately, when you've got cars behind on flying laps, they have to back off when they see that because they've got no choice. As we see Cameron Dask skip over the chicane, and so it is potentially, well, not potentially, it is rather dangerous in many cases when several drivers are doing that, not just one or two. When you've got half the field on the back straight, I think words need to be had, in my opinion. Yeah,
and typical risk-averse Marino Sato at the back of that shot, he deliberately peeled into the pit lane as soon as he saw what's happening in front of him, which does mean he can complete the first sectors of the lap and kind of catch back onto the back of that train, get the slipstream for the important bit of the lap, which is the long pit straight, and then hopefully be in a safer position on his next time around.
Yeah, a couple of cars are exiting the pit lane, I think, as is also Tepinatori as well, so it looks like a few cars saw what was happening, as you say, dived into the pit lane to get themselves a bit clearer air. There's Billy Munger trying to escape up the road to get himself some clear air. This is Jack Doohan chasing after Linus Lundqvist, getting a tow from him. Linus is going to try and tack onto the back of Billy Munger as well. So behind Doc, and he is getting actually a really good tow from Philippe Caminiars, although despite the tow, he's still almost 3/10 off in the second sector.
Yeah, and Jack Doohan's just had his latest lap time deleted and will have his next effort as well. And it's the same run, it's a traffic of at least 12, 13 cars. And cars are getting very close together at the curve of Parabolica, which is not a safe place to make a move. Callum Williams yesterday actually had to take avoiding action when a driver parked himself on the apex of the corner late on in qualifying. It wasn't very helpful for him, as Lorenzo Ferrari goes up to 15th place, which is small solace when you're at the back of the grid. And you can see they're still going slow down the pit straight. It's not worthwhile for anyone's time because you're already losing time for the first sector, which means you're not really going to gain enough of it back in the next sectors to set competitive lap time.
I think I also saw as Linus Lundqvist thinks, forget this, I'm going up the escape road. He's the latest person to make that decision. But I think it was Cameron Dass who was kind of on the inside, then literally, even though there's a car coming up behind him, switched back to the racing line to get himself the right line through Parabolica. And, you know, I don't wish to sound sort of in the way I do, but these guys have got mirrors. They can see guys are coming up there effectively. If they've got someone quicker coming, I know they want to give the best amount of time, but they've got to use the mirrors in many cases. Not just they don't, but they've got to use the mirrors to make sure they can see cars coming. Otherwise, as you mentioned, cars are weaving out of the way at different speeds, and it just causes a dangerous situation.
Yeah, and one driver who's at the back of this train is Yuki Tsunoda. He's just overtaken, I believe, one of the RP Motorsport cars. Set the fastest first sector of anyone of 34.194 seconds. And he's kind of got enough of a gap to the cars in front that even if they do slow down, he should be able to set a competitive lap here.
Also who's moved up is Christian Hahn. He was quite down at the bottom of the times, but he's up to 6th now, and he's now in that sort of group of cars that are in that sort of pack. Is now Yuki Tsunoda is now up on the fastest middle sector. He's on a hot lap. Stop and go penalties though for cars 26 and 31, which is Linus Lundqvist and Billy Munger. Now they were two of the 3 cars, including Cameron Dass as well, who were going slowly on the inside just about a lap ago or so. So it looks like the race control have clamped down on that and given them both a stop go. So I suspect, is it something they can serve in qualifying now, or do they have to wait until the race to do so?
They'll have to serve it now, and given we only have 1 minute 48 this session left, and the top laps are 1 minute 44, so they're not going to be able to improve on their qualifying times now. So they've already compromised themselves as Cameron Dass goes up to 2nd place. Yuki Tsunoda finally pushes Marino Sato off top spot by a 10th, as Callum Williams then responds by over a third of a second for first place. So now goes 4Tech Motorsports on pole: Yuki Tsunoda, Marino Sato, Cameron Dass and Liam Lawson. There's further improvements down the grid. Watch Tepe Notori set the fastest middle sector of the lap. He should be crossing the finish line very soon.
What's interesting though is that both Billy Munger and Linus Lundqvist have gone on for another lap. So rather than pitting, they probably would have been told quite late, but they've gone on for another lap. So I'm thinking in many cases they're going to have to abandon this lap and come into the pit lane. If they don't, well then obviously they're going to have to go to the stewards and obviously even have something that gets implied, I'm sure, for if it's a qualifying penalty, is something they have to serve in the race. What would be the situation there?
Well, they wouldn't have known of the penalty until they went past the pit straight and saw their pit boards. So they would have had to have gone round anyway to see it. As Tepe Notori just goes top, beating Liam Lawson, who had also just set the fastest laps. There's now almost 3 tenths between the top 2 and half a second covering the top 3, which is very different to the kind of 3 tenths that were covering the top 5 earlier.
Yeah, it's a little bit more spread out in many cases as Marino Sato makes his way down to the Roger chicane, followed by Liam Lawson and then Tepe Notori. So as we say, Notori now has that fastest time by about almost 0.3 per second. Lawson second, although Yuki Tsunoda is the one that's flying. He's at the fastest first and second sectors of anyone so far. He may well go to the top. We've got the time on the bottom left of the screen, you can see there. So it's 1:42.629 that he's got to beat. Here he comes into Parabolica. And it looks tidy enough as he comes up through the right-hander. This will be the last flying lap. He comes out onto the pit straight. He's got to beat 1:42. He's not going to get a toe, though, so he may not do it. But no, he won't do it across the line. And no, he stays 7th. So it did look as though he took a bit of a slower entry into Parabolica as the checkered flag comes out in the session. So I think maybe he sort of backed off from, either we realised or not, he just sort of backed off in many cases and decided not to set the fastest time. Sato, meanwhile, fastest middle sector of anyone, but again, he hasn't got the benefit of a toe. So this may well be the case where he'll have to try and keep the foot to the floor, although that's a bit dubious running over most of the green area on the exit, the corner. Onto the pit straight he comes. It's 1:42.69 to beat. He goes second fastest, 1:42.8. Liam Lawson takes over second place, 1:42.704. And there's only Jack Doohan, Ida Cohen, and Ruby Andrade left. And Jack Doohan's on a personal best. But apart from that, unless he can find some mega time in the second sector, I'm not quite sure. In fact, his second sector actually wasn't too bad. It's a 34.308. So maybe watch out for him in a second. Tepe Notori, though, provisionally has pole position. Jack Doohan, let's check out his middle sector for just keep an eye on that. If it goes purple or even blue on our screen, it'll be green on yours when you see the graphic. No, he's done a 34.1, so he won't be a fastest time. So he might improve his time from 8th, but it looks like he'll stay behind our provisional pole sitters. So Tepe Notori then, pretty much keeping up his form from when he had in the second race in Barcelona, because he qualified on pole position there and then led from pole in a dominant fashion and took the fastest time. So there is a slow motion shot of your provisional pole sitter, Tepe Notori. He'll be aiming for his second win of the 2019 season as he works his way through the Rettifilia chicane. Nice bit shot of him working away at the wheel, exiting the first chicane. And good efforts also crucially for Liam Lawson, qualifying in second place ahead of his rookie title rival, Linus Lundqvist, who actually now, as part of a couple of the cars, not just him but Nicholas Cruden, have also had time to delete for track limits on the exit of Parabolica. So that means that Nikolai Kiergaard provisionally will start 8th. So here's the provisional result for qualifying this morning. Tepe Notori takes pole position for the final race of the year. Liam Lawson second quickest. Champion Marino Sato in third. Christian Harder, good effort in fourth quickest for Brazil. Then it's an all-Antipodean third row with Jack Doohan and Caelan Williams. Billy Munger and Nikolai Kiergaard make it an all-Carlin fourth row. Then it's Lucas Dunner and Cameron Das. Of course, Nikolai Kiergaard and Liam Lawson are the two drivers contending for the rookie title. Lawson starting second, Kiergaard starting in 8th position. And Lucas Dunner, of course, looking to wrap up second place in the title fight. Of course, behind champion Sato. 11th fastest for Yuki Tsunoda. Bit disappointing after where he was at one point in the session. Nicholas Cruden 13th. Impressive stuff for Carl Kirkwood up in 13th place for RP Motorsport. Then it's the two DriveX school cars of Philippe Caminiars qualifying ahead of Rui Andrade. Good stuff for him on his first Euroformula weekend. Lundqvist actually is back in 16th now, in fact, so he's further back than I was expected. So Lundqvist, sorry, it's I got it confused there. So Kiergaard's the one that's in 8th. It's Lundqvist back in 15th, so he's got a lot of work to do in any cases. Ida Cohen is showing in 17th place on the screen, 18th for now. The Nicholas Cruden now on our screen here has been changed. He's now down to 18th place. Looks like his time's been deleted. He's dropped all the way down to the back of the grid. So we'll have the interview with Alfredo very shortly. And he'll hear from Tepe Notori. Should be very pleased with that second pole position in as many race weekends to hopefully pick up his second win of the season. So Liam Lawson will start alongside him on the front row, hoping for better fortune than it was yesterday after he started on the front row with Linus Lundqvist. And he will be hoping that he can go ahead and wrap up the rookie title this afternoon in the final race. Marino Sato will obviously be in attacking mode now that the title's settled, as he was yesterday, looking to try and improve on that third place. And Christian Hahn could score a good result if things go his way, back in 4th. Also keep an eye out for the likes of Jack Doohan and Billy Munger. Then it's, of course, Nikolai Kiergaard and Lucas Dunner. And Yuki Tsunoda could be one to watch back from 10th on the grid to work his way through. Carl Kirkwood starting 12th. And we're just waiting for on the interview from Alfredo. Once I get the signal in my ears, I'll certainly be able to pass you across. Now, just quickly, team managers for cars, drivers for cars 18, 7, 26 and 31 have all been handed over. But down to the pit lane where Alfredo has our final pole sitter for 2019 for Carlin, Tepe Notori.
De Penatori. I see you speak Italian. Say it again. 5-4.
Yeah, grazie ragazzi. Grande lavoro.
Well done. It's nice to take the last pole position of the season, of course, in that Monza.
Yeah, but this qualifying is so many traffic, very tough. Because so one time I got a stop and go penalty, but I have no time because very dangerous qualifying. But yeah, just one attack, I get a perfect lap because yeah, I can get pole position. Very happy.
And you want, of course, to win the last race of the season.
Yeah. Afternoon this year's last race, yeah, I focus. So I learning so many tire management or driving style this year because I focus just win. Yeah, I want a victory. I want to say grazie ragazzi again. Yeah.
Well done, and arigato.
Yeah, arigato. Thank you.
So, as you can clearly see, a very happy Penatori, and that sets things up for what should be a thrilling final race of the 2019 season for Euroformula Open. It's going to be incredible, but we'll hopefully see you later on for better race for the last race. So from all of us here at Monza, join us for the final race of the season. But for now, take care and thanks for watching. Bye for now.